My name's Caroline Poynton from Manchester Bury, and I'm going to record this off YouTube today. Because I'm correct about King Charles. I'll have to rewind it because I've just started to watch it. But I am correct about King Charles.
We are being played, insiders.
Yeah,
Harry said he would never bring his
King.
children back to the UK without security. The trip was booked. The invisible children were confirmed. Then, the same day, the palace buried a bombshell about the king's faith. Suddenly, every outlet is screaming Harry hasn't got his security and Meghan's not coming. Coincidence? I think not, Poppets. Right, let's get into it. I will also be bringing in Robert Jobson, the godfather of royal reporting. Robert is a very important voice. He is unfiltered and he is very, very damning regarding what has recently happened regarding King Charles, Harry and the monarchy. Let's start with Harry's own words because this matters. In May 2025, Harry sat down with the BBC and said on camera, on record, it was impossible for him to take his family back to the UK safely without proper security. That was his red line. Not a source, not an insider, him. Then a friend of Harry's confirmed it in writing to GB News, and I'm quoting directly here. There is not a world in which he brings the kids back unless there is an enhanced security package around them. That is clear, unambiguous. No security, no family visit. Oh, we can but pray. So when the July trip gets announced, dates confirmed, 5 days, Archie, Lily included. What does that tell you? It tells you the security question had an answer. You don't book the flights otherwise. Let's get on to the planted stories. And this is where I can tell you exactly what is going on. Because the machine is kicking in. And insiders, I need you to pay close attention here. January 2026, wall-to-wall coverage. A Home Office insider tells the Mail on Sunday, and I'm quoting directly, it's now a formality. Wow. Sources at the Home Office have indicated that security is now nailed on for Harry. Now, for the Mail on Sunday to be able to run this coverage, they would have had to see some off-the-record confirmation. And I say that because this is now stepping into the realms of national security. They can't just run something and it's sourced via words only. So, Harry is suing the Mail and the Mail on Sunday. They're not going to take such a big risk and splash on a front page with something that is not true when it relates to the man that is suing them in the High Court. And then we have People magazine. It's like Meghan Markle Weekly, isn't it? Yeah. They run the same briefing. No, the UK government is likely to reverse its position. Harry now meets the criteria for taxpayer-funded armed security. Done, sorted. That's January, ticked off. Then GB News runs a story that King Charles himself has stepped in, that Charles has personally intervened, offering his own resources to cover the security costs. In the same breath, the same story claimed the Home Office had approved round-the-clock armed police.
Yeah. Correct.
Police protection funded by us, the taxpayers, for the duration of the stay.
Suitcases were from
the post office and here's where we rumble them. 2 claims, 1 story, but both cannot be true simultaneously. Yeah, and here's where I'm going to stop you, because this specific story is legally impossible, and whoever planted it knew that. You cannot, get ready for the bombshell, you cannot privately purchase Metropolitan Police armed protection. It doesn't matter whose money it is. Harry's, Charles's, anyone's. Harry already went to court on precisely this point and lost. A government lawyer successfully argued that police officers cannot be used as private bodyguards for the wealthy. The king cannot write a cheque for armed Met officers. It is not within his power. Full stop. End of conversation. So why does that story exist? Who benefits from the public believing Charles could privately fix this when legally he cannot? Now we're told the Home Office were nervous about granting Harry security because of, and I want you to hear this, political risk and concerns about taxpayer sentiment.
Not political.
Not the threat assessment, not the intelligence, the optics. This is the same Home Office that tells us it cannot comment on security arrangements because, and I'm quoting, doing so could compromise their integrity and affect individuals' security. Integrity, that is the word they used. And this is where I want to ask you a very simple question. Do you trust the spin that's coming out of the Home Office? Because I don't. I would argue I probably have more trust in Pinocchio than I do the Home Office, because this is the same institution that is meant to allegedly be protecting our borders. This is also the same institution that has been allegedly funding dark psyops that have infiltrated our news. You may have seen that video on my channel with world-renowned security expert Will Geddes. The same institution overseeing national security, and we're supposed to take their account for what protection Prince Harry has or hasn't been granted as gospel. Absolutely not. So back to January. Security nailed on, a formality. The family are coming. Fast forward to this week, and here is where you need that popcorn at the ready. Same outlets, completely different story. Harry's plans pulled out from under his feet at the 11th hour. So dramatic. Security denied. Meghan not coming. The invisible children not coming. Harry, he's distraught. From nailed on to pulled from under their feet in 6 months. And the timing of this reversal, let me show you exactly when these doubt stories landed. June the 27th, 2026. Buckingham Palace publishes the Sovereign Grant Report, 2025 to 2026. The annual financial document. The one that nobody reads. Buried inside it, the language describing the King's constitutional role has been changed. It has been changed, and I have barely slept since because I cannot emphasise enough how much this will change our lives. For
the worse.
For the worse. It is so unbelievably heartbreaking what this king has done. So he was head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. This year, head of another ideology and a field mouse.
Islam.
Okay, I did add that bit in. I am being a little bit facetious today because I'm very, very
angry. He can be the head of Islam for all he cares, but he's not being the king.
His Majesty protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. Right. 500 years of Britain's constitutional Christian identity, quietly rewritten in an accountancy document. No vote, no debate, no announcement. And within the same news cycle, dropping within an hour. Every front page, every outlet, every royal correspondent is asking one question only. Is Meghan Markle getting on a plane?
Who cares?
I have got to say, insiders, I am flabbergasted at the radio silence within the royal YouTube community and commentators that have not spoken out about the king dropping defender of the faith. I've seen many of them release other videos since this news dropped.
You don't want the truth.
The fact the king has done this should be front page of every single newspaper in the Western world.
And the lines.
So let me be clear about what actually happened on June 27th.
Meta AI is a liar.
The previous year's Sovereign Grant Report described the king as head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. This year's version replaced that entirely. The new wording reads, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. No one asked me as a Christian. I don't know if anyone asked you, insiders. I am furious. The title Defender of the Faith dates back to 1521. It has defined the relationship between the British Crown and Christianity for over 5 centuries. Gone. Through the back pages of a financial report. How disrespectful is that? Is that how little they think of us and the church?
Yeah, it is.
And this was all happening while the world was busy reading about Meghan Markle's travel plans. This is not a footnote. This is not a technicality. This is the question of whether Britain remains constitutionally a Christian nation. Answered quietly, without your consent, without your knowledge, while we were all reading about Meghan Markle. And for my OG insiders, you will recognise this because I've been reporting for months on King Charles's relationship with Gulf state institutions. I've been reporting on this when I got trolled, when I was smeared, when everyone came for me about this. But insiders, you stood by me because I have done the work, I have done the research on this. Everything is here and we are only just getting started at lifting the veil on the toxicity of this story.
For helping.
The Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies. Muslim organisations that have received royal patronage.
That's getting it out as well. No matter if the king likes it or not.
This language change does not sit in isolation. It is the pattern, now official, in writing, published by the palace itself.
Disgusting, is.
So let me bring this back to where we started. Harry set a red line. The trip was confirmed. The invisible children were coming. Then, the exact same day, the palace slipped out the most significant change to the monarchy's constitutional identity in 5 centuries. The Harry and Meghan security story suddenly explodes across every outlet. Whether they come or they don't come is irrelevant to this story. My story to you is how the mainstream media and the palace, I believe, are playing you. We've been given a soap opera to watch while something that will affect the future of our country, of our children, of our grandchildren, has been signed off in the background. 500 years gone, and we were all looking the other way. Let's hear from Robert Jobson. Robert Jobson has for 35 years been at the centre of royal reporting. He is the godfather of royal reporting, and he is a voice I have huge respect for. And unlike the royal rota voices that are owned by the palace, I would say, what you will hear in this clip from Robert Jobson will shock you. Take a look at this.
The elephant's King Charles.
Robert Jobson, there is only one person I could speak to when the news broke that King Charles and the palace have slyly changed Defender of the Faith to Defender of Faith in a Multi-Faith Nation. You wrote the book, Charles at 70. You have been at the centre of royal reporting. This is ludicrous.
Well, it also changes completely what he was saying at the time I wrote that book, and also just prior to the coronation, our king, because I checked this, because there was an awful lot of conversation going on at the time about this, that he wanted to become Defender of Faith. But I got back from the sources I was talking to, absolutely not. He will be named Defender of the Faith, which he was. That was the agreement. That was the point. Now they had provisos there, saying, of course, he embraces the other religions in the country, and it was no accident that the chief rabbi stayed the night before at Crown's house before the coronation, and everyone was represented. Nobody's saying that they shouldn't be. However, fundamentally, the monarch of this country is the Supreme Governor of the Church of England. Defender of the Faith, actually, funny enough, comes from not what some people think that was the formation of the Protestant Church and Henry VIII. Henry VIII was made Defender of the Faith, by the way, as was Catherine of Aragon, through a paper that was written, and he was given the title originally by the Pope as a Catholic, title that came from the Pope, and it was on a treaty or on a thesis that he wrote about marriage, ironically, Henry VIII. But that's beside the point. Once there was the dissolution of the monasteries and the split with Rome, it became to do with the Parliament that brought it in, that the monarchy was linked to the established church, the Protestant church, the Church of England. I think it's a huge error. I think it's pretty damning for the Church of England too. I'm not quite sure how it's got under the radar, and it's almost like it's just been allowed in as a footnote. And given where we are with this country, in 50 years' time, maybe they're doing it because if George is on the throne, there may well be, Christianity or the Church of England will be completely outnumbered by other faiths, and they're trying to stay and survive. But aren't they missing the point? This is fundamentally a Christian country, a Western civilization Christian country, and the constitutional monarchy is linked to that.
It's absolutely shocking because we won't get this back now. This is gone. This is not coming back. It poses the question, obviously, for this kind of change to happen, I would assume that King Charles would have had in-depth conversations with Prince William regarding this change, as well as Buckingham Palace being lived in. What would be happening behind the scenes?
Well, clearly William is involved in the conversations, but these are decisions I think that the King will make essentially on his own. Essentially, yes, there will be advice from William and from the Archbishop of Canterbury and the people that he advised him, his private secretary, Sir Clive Alderson, and others. But I think this is Charles, really. I think that before he is essentially somebody who believes in multi-faith cooperation, and surely we all do on that, but that doesn't mean you effectively disestablish the Church of England, which is essentially what he's doing. And I think a lot of people will be sad by this because it's a question of identity of a country, a sovereign nation, and I think that is something that is shifted in a footnote in the Sovereign Grant report, and I think that should have been more open to discussion. A lot of people, I think, will be surprised by this. There's been nothing coming out from the new Archbishop of Canterbury. We've heard nothing from the General Synod. We've heard nothing, and we're just told that this is happening. Yes, I think Charles is trying to make his mark about the type of monarchy he wants to be.
King Charles can't stand
we all know
himself.
he's living with cancer, so his reign is going to be
Cancer,
curtailed.
cancer.
But at the same time, these are quite big seismic changes. And yes, he must have consulted William, but I think he sort of almost wants it on his own watch.
Feel sorry for him.
What do you think the late Queen would make of this? Because
she'll be turning in a grave.
Growing up, for me, I knew exactly who the late Queen was. I knew what she was. I knew what she stood for. And I felt very safe. I felt that we were a constitutionally Christian country, which were proud of. It feels like in such a short amount of time, King Charles has destroyed many foundations that the late Queen protected and gave her life to protect.
Well, it simply wouldn't have happened on the Queen's watch. She's a high church Anglican, devout Christian, and there's just absolutely no way any of this would have happened on her watch. Look, the Duke of Edinburgh was somebody who was always exploring multi-faith, and the connectivity between faiths. He felt that was important to have that interfaith dialogue, and I do agree with that. But that's a huge step from going from there to saying we are now, the monarch is effectively, the Church of England is effectively disestablished, which is what we're saying. Because if the monarch, who is the sovereign of this country, is saying that he is no longer the supreme governor of the Church of England. But what I don't understand, is none of this has been discussed openly in any way. I mean, it hasn't been discussed from what we understand, by the General Synod. It hasn't been discussed anywhere else. And I think that, this is quite a shock.
Wow.
And there have been in-depth discussions with the church and the New
They
Archbishop
haven't, because if
Canterbury,
they
then
had, well,
surely
why would we
they
go?
should have been shared
Why
with
does
the
nobody know?
Christian community. But from what I've heard, nothing has been shared at all. So I can't imagine if this was a Muslim nation that if a decision by the supreme governor of the Muslim church or whatever had made that decision, or even another religion, that it wouldn't have caused a massive stir. If so all of a sudden an Islamic Republic, the leader declared that it's now a multi-faith republic, there'll be uproar in the streets. Now I understand what's going on here. We all, I think we all
So they're doing it so it
we
don't
have
get
a growing,
that's why.
a growing
Muslim
influx
community.
of more and more different religions.
No, not more
a lot
religions,
more
mate.
from Islamic,
Muslim community.
different
Islamic
strands of
community,
Islam.
thank you.
And clearly the monarchy under William and clearly under Charles, who want to be embracing all of their subjects.
Who were all
I feel
faiths?
that's you can do that without completely
Apart from
changing
Christian faith, who are the rest of the faiths?
the fabric of the country that you're supposed
Apart
to be
from
the
Islam.
nation of.
Do you think we're looking at the beginning of the end of the monarchy?
Well,
and I don't mean that
Jews,
this time
not
next
more
year
of
it
them
would be
here
over,
coming
but
over and
do you think when
thousands of
we
Jews
zoom
coming
out
over,
and look
isn't
at the
it?
wider picture,
Taking
it
over.
feels to me like things are winding down.
There's not millions of
I
Chinese
think it's
coming
quite
here
clear
and
that
taking over.
Charles was doing things very differently actually from the late Queen. I mean, I think
whoever
in
else
terms of
taking
religion,
over.
what
It's
is
Islam
he? We know
taking
he's
over.
read.
Jihads.
We know he's
Terrorists.
somebody who's read the Quran and he speaks Arabic and he's with a lot of different religions and understands them.
Fucking of applause for himself.
But and he has in his garden in Highgrove, he has an Orthodox chapel and used to go off to Orthodox retreats in Greece. But the bottom line here is he is supposed to be a sovereign representing his country, the country of it, which was when the Queen came to the throne. I think it was over 25% since she actually had been appointed by God. So it's very much a Western civilization
so
of a
that's
Christian
why you couldn't care less, actually.
Society. The Church of England at its core, Anglican at its core, you weren't even allowed to be a Prime Minister as a Catholic, for example. So the difference between going from one, it's almost gone from one extreme to the other. Now, obviously, I would have thought there's been discussion with him. William has already just said that, he wants to be representing his generation. Royalty with a small r, I think is the expression that's used. Well, that in itself is reducing the grandeur of the monarchy, which makes it more important and more relevant on a world stage. Does it mean that the beginning and the end? I certainly think it shows that there is a divided crown and a disconnect with certain people in the country. And I think these decisions are being made by a small number of people. With reference to a small number of advisors that, let's be honest, will probably not really be ones who will be critical of the king, or who, if their ideas are different, will probably not be there for very long. So this is clearly coming from the king, and that he wants to do this. As I said, when I was writing out King Charles III, there was a lot of talk about this, and I pinned it down, getting to a very high level about this, and they came back with absolute assurance that he would be, when he became king, defender of the faith. He's been on the throne since 2022, September 2022, he acceded to the throne. At that time, that's a radical shift from where we were in this second.
Insiders, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Unfunded, unfiltered and unapologetic. I am so grateful to each and every one of you for supporting my journalism and this channel. Please make sure you support Robert Jobson's Substack. It is fantastic and I have tagged it below. Have a fantastic day.
I will do. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. From Caroline Poynton. Let's see if there's any more. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Robert Jobson, there is only one person I can speak to when the news broke.
We'll carry on with this one, because
Robert Jobson, there is only one person I can speak to when the news broke that King Charles and the palace have slightly changed defender of the faith to defender of faith in a multi-faith nation. You wrote the book, Charles at 70. You have been at the centre of royal reporting. This is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Well, it also changes completely what he was saying at the time I wrote that book, and also just prior to the coronation shut our king, because I checked this because there was an awful lot of conversation going on at the time about this, that he wanted to become defender of faith. But I got back from the sources I was talking to, absolutely not. He will be named defender of the faith, which he was. That was the agreement. That was the point. Now they had provisos there saying, of course, he embraces the other religions in the country, and it was no accident that the chief rabbi stayed the night before at Clarence House before the coronation, and everyone was represented. Nobody's saying that they shouldn't be. However, fundamentally, the monarch of this country is the supreme governor of the Church of England. Defender of the faith, actually, funny enough, comes from not what some people think that was the formation of the Protestant Church in Henry VIII. Henry VIII was made defender of the faith, by the way, as was Catherine of Aragon, through a paper that was written, and he was given the title originally by the Pope as a Catholic.
Breaking today, fury over King Charles revising a definition of monarchy that orders protection of a multi-faith nation. Now, Brits have been labelled crazy things like far-right or conspiracy theorists for being concerned about the erosion, the very obvious erosion of this country's Christian heritage.
Look at him.
But you certainly can't accuse those people of being paranoid.
Every time I look at it now,
because under this new revised definition of the monarchy that was slipped out last week, virtually ignored by the mainstream media, King Charles's official role will be to protect the multi-faith nation. Protect the multi-faith nation. Oh yes, okay, an Islamic nation. Sir, is that what you mean? As GB News reported, the king will protect the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. That is the new definition of his official role. Buckingham Palace unveiled this significant revision with the newly released Sovereign Grant Report, describing His Majesty as the protector of faith across Britain's diverse religious landscape. I thought he was the head of the Church of England. I thought he was the defender of Christianity. But the annual financial review of the royal household contains fresh terminology, positioning the monarch as someone who safeguards religion throughout the nation. According to the document, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. This reform represents a notable evolution in how the palace formally characterises the sovereign's constitutional and spiritual responsibilities. The previous year's report, so this has been an actual change, characterised the king under his head of nation duties as the head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. Now, the king's titles date back to the reign of Henry VIII, after he was granted the title Defender of the Faith in 1521 by Pope Leo X. And rightly there is outrage about this, with the royal grift asking, how is everyone feeling about this? As an Anglican, this doesn't sit right with me. Christians should not be forced to accept Islamic faith woven into the foundation of Western society. This is too far. It is incompatible. This multi-faith acceptance messaging will spread to the United States and into my Anglican church because he is still the head of the Church of England. Only king we should be worshipping is Jesus. Mary Harrington argued that if Charles's faith is not Christianity but global replacism, he should be disposed. And GB News host Emma Tremble doubled down, saying that this is now a bona fide constitutional crisis. Independent media sensation Winston Marshall, the ex-Mumford & Sons star, said, hard to understate just how radical a departure this is from the 1,100-year tradition of our nation and antithetical to our founding. Anti-Islam activist Kelly J. King raged, the king is not defender of all faiths, he is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and defender of the faith. He does not have the right to quietly rewrite the job description of the Crown to suit modern fashion. This country's institutions should mean something. Indeed,
Well, he does it to him,
legally,
'cause he
it
doesn't-
does
he's not
seem that there are
British.
issues with how this has been introduced, how this has just been slipped in. Without any public debate
Told you.
whatsoever. Top lawyer Stephen
He
Barrett
wanted to
explained.
be the
You
next
can't
Hitler, but
change
he
the
couldn't
Constitution
be Hitler
by some words in the sovereign grant.
being a Christian.
He is the
It was
defender of faith and he is the Church of
completely
England.
different
Those
back then.
are his
Now he
obligations,
can't
his
be a
duty.
Christian and advocate
A
to kill
king
Jews
who
and
will
the
not
Christians,
do
can he?
his duty is no
So he had
king.
to change his religion.
And Lauren the Insider was in
Yeah.
particular despair, writing, I'm
He
absolutely
changed his religion,
heartbroken.
that's why.
It is now not safe to
Don't
raise
care
my
what
daughters
you
in
say.
England. Our
No,
last
it's not
remaining
safe
protection
area.
was it being a constitutionally Christian
No, not
country.
safe for
I
no
am
one.
speechless. But once she recovered her speech, and thank goodness she did, Lauren the Insider gave us the lowdown
Yeah.
on what this change actually means. Watch.
How does this impact our safety?
I've
There
watched that
is
as well.
a lot of protection within our
Oh, no, yeah, I have watched this one, I
constitutionally
think, yeah.
Christian country, but we all know we're in the middle of an Islamic takeover. I've got the bish here, I've got
We
the
are-
receipts,
we have
and by
been,
the
because
end
King
of this
Charles has
episode,
changed his
you will
religion.
understand exactly what has just happened to the
Islam.
Church of England and why nobody will talk
He
about
bowed down
this
to
in
Islam
an
with that money he
unfiltered
got
way
from
within
Baghdad
the
on dodgy
mainstream
money.
media.
And a bit
Okay,
before
let's
that,
be precise about what
Yeah,
has
precise.
changed because precision matters here. The Sovereign Grant Report is the Royal Household's annual financial and operational document. It is not tabloid gossip, it's not a leak, it is the official palace description of what the monarch does and what his role is. Last year's report described the king under his head of nation duties as head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. The new report, published late last week, reads, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation.
But we're not a multi-faith
Same
nation.
document, different language.
Yeah.
And of course, Lauren believes
What's
there
that? Well, I don't know if it was
is
that
even a
one.
chance King Charles has converted to Islam.
Converted to Islam, thank you.
Because if he cannot put Christianity front and centre, then what he is doing is
Yeah.
he is
He's converted to Islam. Yeah, King Charles has converted to Islam.
Chance King Charles has converted to Islam.
He has.
because if he cannot put Christianity front and centre, then what he is doing is he is over-amplifying an ideology that many people feel does not want to assimilate and does not want to integrate
With
as a
Christian.
political ideology.
Yeah.
And critically,
not.
don't forget, before his coronation, there was a significant public debate about whether Charles would change Defender of the Faith
Yeah.
to Defender of
Faith.
Faiths, the plural form encompassing all religions.
That's before
He
he
chose
swore
at
an
the
oath.
coronation
So he
to
lied
keep
on
the
oath.
traditional wording. He kept his oath publicly in Westminster Abbey.
Yeah. Swore an
What
oath.
changed?
Why did he change
Not the
it
legal
now? Why
title,
not change it
but the
before it
palace's
becomes
own operational definition of
There we
what
are.
that title means in practice. And that is a very different kind of move.
And Bishop Karen H. Dewa, who has been desperately calling on the king to affirm his 100% support for Christianity, is not happy.
Sharia law has no place in our society. There are no other religious
No.
bodies that have their own courts. The Church of England is bound by canon law. The Church
Yeah.
of Wales is bound by canon law. We don't have canon courts as a result of that are actively operating in direct opposition to the government's legislated laws and the law of this land. You don't see that
Law
from
of the land,
the Jewish
I've
community
been
or the
saying.
Sikh community, the Buddhist
Yeah.
community, Hindu community.
that's what
It
I've
is
just
only
said.
the
We don't-
Islamic community.
Islamic community,
and it
that's
is
it.
completely
What I've
unacceptable.
just said.
And the problem is that
And that's all
this
King Charles talks
news
about.
has now been
We don't talk about anything
overshadowed,
else.
of course,
Thank
by
you.
all of the will
Yeah.
they, won't they drama
So he changed
about
his
whether Prince Harry
religion,
and Meghan
swore an
Markle
oath, and he
come to
lied
the
on
UK.
swearing
Lauren
upon
thinks
oath.
that's a
That's
plan.
I
in
can
the
tell you
Bible.
exactly
That's
why they did
treason.
it this way. They buried it, they released it and hoped that people wouldn't notice. What they wanted was for this news to go under the radar. And then the minute the Telegraph picked it up, you now see stories coming out. Meghan Markle isn't coming to the UK. Will she, won't she? This is all done to distract you, so you don't pay attention. Blink and you miss it.
It's a shame.
Leo Kearse, I mean, there have been huge concerns over whether Charles is actually committed to Christianity.
I thought there would have been a bit different.
What I think is most disturbing about this is that there's been no debate. It was just slipped out. And obviously all of the talk was about Buckingham Palace and the fact that Charles and William and Edward going to reside there. Then all of the talk was about Harry and Meghan are going to be linked to Buckingham Palace. And obviously that is important, that matters. But this one is so fundamental, Leo. And actually there deserves to be a real discussion and there deserves to be scrutiny on what King Charles is actually suggesting here. Is he saying, as our monarch, that the UK is no longer a Christian country? Because that is terrifying and chilling to many of us.
I'm sorry.
We're building a community that isn't afraid to speak up. If that sounds like you, hit that subscribe button and join us. Your voice matters here. Welcome to Outspoken.
Yeah, I know for some people in Britain these days, they might think that Christianity is an anachronism and it's, it doesn't have any bearing on our lives. But I mean, a couple of 100 years ago, this would have been, people would have been beheaded and heads put on spikes for this kind of radical departure. I mean, you remember how much of a radical departure it was when
we'll call it radicalised.
The monarch left the Catholic Church. So this is a huge. I mean, this is momentous. It feels like a submission to a more aggressive, dominating culture that's rapidly expanding and is taking over not just the Middle East, but swathes of Africa and Asia, and now Europe as well. And we can see when Islam reaches, around about 10, 15, 20% in a country, then you start getting real problems. So we're not at that level yet, but we're not too far off it. And also with the amount of appeasement and acquiescence, we don't approach Islamism the same way that somewhere like Israel approaches Islamism. So 20% of Israel is Muslim. And obviously, Israel is surrounded by Muslim countries that keep trying to wipe it out every, decade or so. They all get together and try to wipe Israel out. So Israel has had to become very tough at managing the threat from Islamism, not just from outside its borders, but also the 20% of its population that are Muslims. They've had bus bombings, terror attacks, armed insurrections, all the rest of it. And we're not at that point yet. We've taken the path of acquiescence and appeasement every step of the way. But we are getting to that point. It's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be many more, attempted beheadings or terror attacks that we're going to put up with. And to see our king turn around and be like, oh, I'm not Christian anymore. I'm not the Christian leader. Oh, no, this is for all faiths. This is for everyone. Let's just roll over and let anybody who wants to, everybody has claim to this land. Man, this is disgusting. King Arthur must be spinning in his grave. We used to have proper English kings, Lionhearts, that went over and that's what we need fought against the spread of Islamism, fought in the Crusades, which everybody is taught were despicable aggression. They were actually defensive wars. I know for a fact that our current king, he's not going to get on a horse with armour and a big sword and the English flag. No, he'd be. If he goes over there,
what he is.
It won't be to fight the spread of Islamism. It'll be as a fluffer for them.
Like a bloodshot eye.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, Leo, this weakness does seem to typify his reign, because while I do understand he is battling terminal cancer, the idea that he is giving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle the opportunity to have the keys to Buckingham Palace. I mean, I know it's not as serious as what we're discussing in terms of no longer defending Christianity, but it's like, come on. The optics of that? I don't want these two staying in Buckingham Palace, for God's sake. I want them staying at a travel lodge. Do you know what I mean? And all of this just plays into this idea, Leo, that Charles is
yeah, but it's a shame
weak.
with Harry.
He is weak.
I like Harry, but I don't like him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for him to roll over in front of them after how they've treated him. I mean, one of the things, you know, I'm not a huge royalist. I'd be much more of a royalist if the royal family were like a royal family used to be. You know, but that's by the by. They've just become another institution that's become so woke and so wishy-washy and just perpetuating and pushing all these communist ideologies to destroy Britain. But to roll over, on a personal level, to roll over and kowtow to Harry and Meghan, after how they treated the royal family, I think they've done more damage to the royal family than Prince Andrew has. They're publishing secrets, you know, breaking that sort of contract that the public has with the royal family. The Queen understood so well. Never complain, never explain. And they've done the opposite. They've just been absolutely emotionally incontinent, and you know, I'm pretty sure they've lied and made stuff up as well. You know, all these claims of racism in the royal family, and you know, when you see these examples of racism, like when Ngozi Fulani, an African woman, she turned up to Buckingham Palace, and well, she's born in Hackney, lives in Hackney or whatever. She turned up to Buckingham Palace, and somebody asked her, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "How racist!" It's like, did you see how she was dressed? She was literally dressed like Fred Flintstone. She was dressed like, you know, a character from the middle of the Congolese jungle in a Carry On film. She looked absolutely nonsensical. I wouldn't have been surprised if she'd ridden in on a hippo, like firing blow darts at people. Of course people are going to ask where you're from if you're wearing, you know, a leopard print miniskirt and, you know, Scary Spice's beads. So, you know, I think if somebody, if they're complaining about racism and it's the same sort of baseless complaints, you know, I think that's such a disgusting attack on the royal family. So for King Charles to just roll over and be like, oh, let's let bygones be bygones. I mean, come on. Yeah, travel. I travel lodges too. I stay in travel lodges when I'm on tour. They're brilliant. It's like 25 quid a night and you can get like a kettle and some coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want them here at all, to be totally honest. Yeah. And I don't think there's any public demand for it. I mean, Harry's like, I should get security because Taylor Swift once got security. No one wants you here. There's no demand for it. You were warned. Stay away is my view. But I agree, Leo. It's the idea that the royal family thinks someone is going to call them racist or Islamophobic when actually the subjects are all sitting back thinking, no. You are far too woke. That is the issue. We all actually knew that Ngozi Fulani was just a race-based. She was like an Orinda, you know, who walked into that situation, I believe, secretly recording the lady in waiting. And immediately the royal family turned on her and it was just so awful. But something interesting happened over the weekend, Leo, in your home nation. And what's interesting is you actually think that maybe the king wanted this. So he was made, according to the Daily Telegraph, to sit through an anti-British play at the Scottish Parliament. So the Telegraph reported that the king should not have been made to sit through this performance. That is according to opposition leaders. So young actors performed a section of a play that appeared to suggest that the British Empire was racist. The excerpt from Through a Shortbread Tin satirised the myth of Scottish exceptionalism, but contained what some interpreted to be anti-British attitudes. Opposition MSPs described the performance as historically illiterate and divisive, and said it should not have been performed in front of the king. So let's take a look at some of this gross display.
Imagine that, eh?
Go all over the world and you'll meet a Scot. How's that, eh? Always on the right side of history, we were.
Oh, yeah? You mean the British Empire?
Not that side of history, the other side of history.
Oh. You mean the plantations?
No, not that side of history, the other side of history.
Oh. Right. The racism.
No. Not that side of history, the other side of history.
Oh, you mean Darien, the New World, the shipbuilding?
Aye, the shipbuilding.
For the slaves.
No, not that side of history, the other side of history. It's not what I meant. You're twisting my words, suiting yourself, telling your own version, not the right version.
Well, what is the right version?
Those days are past now. And in the past, they've...
Oh.
What is that?
Now, you actually argued that the king may have actually taken to the anti-British performance writing on it. Betty loved it. But Leo, here's the thing. Doesn't this just, again, play into the weakness of the king and the weakness of his reign? Because do not tell me for a single second that the late Queen Elizabeth II would ever have sat through that, would ever have been made to sit through that. And unfortunately, without knowing the details, my belief is that probably the King's team did nod it through, did probably think he was going to like it, because I'm sorry, he would not, he's the king, right? His team get a rundown. This is what's going to happen at the opening of Parliament. If he kicks up a stink, or his team kick up a stink, said play doesn't happen. And it happened without any complaint. And I, again, think it is part of this suicidal empathy that has seen him walk away from Christianity too. But first, we've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now, one doctor says that's nothing but old.
It seems to be, I mean, you're completely right, I'm sure.
The description box below. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, and this sort of self-loathing for himself and his own culture and his own country, it seems to be. I mean, you're completely right. I'm sure Queen Elizabeth II wouldn't have stood for it. She would have, if that play appeared in front of her in the Scottish Parliament, she would have stood up, pulled out a massive sword and beheaded the nearest SNP politician. And that is the right thing for a monarch to do. And also, I mean, what a sort of despicable sneering at Scotland's proud history. You know, for all the Scottish people saying, "Oh, we were colonised by England." Well, we weren't colonised by England. It was a mutual agreement. It was something we entered into willingly, and we made the most of it. Scotland ran the empire. We built the bridges. We built the ships. We ran the bureaucracy, and we dealt with the money, and that's how Scotland became rich. How Glasgow and Edinburgh became rich. So we should be immensely proud of our role in the empire. Especially, you know, Scottish shipbuilding, you know, in Glasgow, for Queen Elizabeth II, a woman who was named after a ship. I just think it's disgusting for them to sneer at Scottish shipbuilding like that. But yeah, King Charles, I'm sure he absolutely loved it. He probably gave them some pointers. Oh, here's how you can hate on England more. It's despicable. So I want a monarch who's going to stand up, you know, with a bit of hellfire, with a bit of fire in their belly, and, you know, pick up that sword and stand.
Okay, well, let me show you some of his speech, Leo, and you can judge whether you thought he did a decent job. Watch this. This was at the Scottish Opening of Parliament.
First Minister, members of the Scottish Parliament,
with the people.
The Queen and I offer you our warmest good wishes for the session to come. One we shall follow with close and abiding interest.
You're not abiding interest.
As you take up your great responsibilities, we share every hope for the continued contribution of this Parliament
what have you
to the well-being,
apart from
confidence and prosperity of Scotland, its land and all its people.
Yeah, our land. Scotland's land, not your land, King Charles.
Do you think this thing let us continue to show by example?
I mean, back to Germany.
Look,
Greece,
not exactly inspiring stuff, but I have to be honest, Leo, there's nothing inspiring to me about Holyrood whatsoever.
And there's nothing
I
inspiring
think
about King
devolution
Charles
has just
whatsoever.
been a bit of a disaster. Maybe the king knows that.
As a king.
Oh, devolution is a calamity, especially for Scotland. This is why I was amazed to see Andy Burnham, put it as his sort of marquee pledge. He's going to devolve government, because if you get devolved governments, you just get these satellite parliaments that fight back against the centre. There's not enough oversight on them because they're way out in the sticks. So there's more corruption, there's more inefficiency, it's just been appalling for Scotland.
He looks in that mirror, he sees fucking all the nonsense.
Yes, indeed. Okay, Leo, let's take a look at our feedback before we get to revealing today's greatest Britain
and Union
Jackets, because we have had a lot of comments coming in. Real Thinking Monkey has a sort of backhanded compliment, so I'll take it. And they're saying, I do think your channel is sometimes a bit of an echo chamber, but this Shabana Mahmood stuff is truly scary as F. Well, yes, Real Thinking Monkey, this isn't an echo chamber. The problem is the rest of the mainstream media is a total echo chamber, which is why you need to come here to actually realise what Shabana Mahmood has planned, because I have been telling you for months and months and months. Shava2UK150, who's number one today, the number one supporter, which is incredible. It is painfully obvious that GB News was set up to bring free speakers under control. Those they can't control get the boot. I look forward to Father Calvin Robinson testing this in court.
I like
Lily 1962 says, hi Dan, please look into the lawsuit with Palantir while we are all fighting over the shit they've orchestrated data centres, water, personal autonomy, brain data.
That's what we need to
and
do.
Chaos UK 2026 says Charles will put a gold helmet on Buckingham Palace next. It's embarrassing and disgusting, Dan. Private Note says, please don't let England fall like San Francisco and Los Angeles have in America. You'll never get it back. To be honest, Private Notes, I worry it is too late for that. Baba Booey says the Islamic Caliphate of the United Kingdom is almost complete. Labour's rushing it in. We don't have time to wait till the next election. We need them out. Elizabeth Seawalt 7144 on Shabana Mahmood says, yes, she is a traitor. They are all destroying Britain, but that was the plan all along. Wake up, Brits, you are being replaced.
I hope he is not.
And Ginger1234 and Andy Burnham says, very likely PM in 3 weeks will not take any questions. I see he's continuing the dictatorship from Keir Starmer, and on my terrifying prediction from Polymarket that Ed Miliband is heading to become the Chancellor of the United Kingdom. Joyce Martin 649 says, to be honest, I am praying Millerbrain, I like that, I use that, gets to be Chancellor. The financial markets will explode and crash. It truly has to be so bad before it gets better. And there is a school of thought about that at the moment. Okay, a reminder of your nominees to be named the worst Britain in the world today. Our Union Jackass. So I went for Shabana Mahmood for her plot to invade the country with an unbearable wave of immigration that would see Britain destroyed for good. Leo Kurz went for Andy Burnham for pushing devolution, which is a disastrous idea that creates corrupt satellite governments with little oversight and no incentive to do their job properly, who just fight back against the central government. We just discussed that. And he also went for Sadiq Khan, because it's been revealed that 12,000 grooming gang incidents have been reported to the Met Police since 2010, but Sadiq feigned ignorance when quizzed on the issue. So 3 really good nominees, I have to say. But do I have the win? Oh my goodness, it was close. In 3rd place, and I struggle to believe this actually, trust me, he's going to be winning every single day very soon. But in 3rd place with 31% of the vote is Andy Burnham. The runner-up with 33% of the vote is Sadiq Khan. But I convinced you because she wasn't winning actually before the digest, but Shabana Mahmood, our treacherous Home Secretary, is the worst Britain in the world today, our Union Jackass. So Leo Kurz, I guess I better let you reveal and nominate today's greatest Britain. Who have you gone for?
So my greatest Britain is Kate Middleton, who has been, obviously she's not the only royal who's dealing with cancer, but she's certainly younger, and I think when you're younger, it's often a more serious illness, and she's dealt with it with poise and style, and I think her completing the 3 Peaks challenge is incredible and inspirational, and her openness and honesty around it has been much needed. I mean, she shows how the royals can modernise without without becoming this sort of disgusting sort of woke, sloppy communist mess.
Yeah,
so I think she's great. And I think her and Wills should really be in charge. I think it'd be better for the country if they were.
Yeah, Leo, she was so incredible on this Three Peaks challenge. Remember what I love about it is that, because Harry and Meghan, they're always shouting, aren't they, about something, security, and I'm launching this. She just went and did it. She went and trained. Remember, she's a woman who was going through serious cancer treatment, chemotherapy 2 years ago. She just went and trained, and she just did it without any song or dance. And she was just up on the Three Peaks with literally a couple of people with her, and she was having brilliant interactions with people, which I actually found quite emotional. And so I just want to show you some of what happened.
Oh.
How are you doing, Ted? You're not too cold. Not very
Oh, wow.
So you can put on that t-shirt. Who's next? Do you have a cast on?
Oh, wow. You've got a wheelchair. I think you're a veteran's ass.
And have you been up here? It's your first time, but it's such a shame you can't see any of the news.
Oh, okay.
You're in the cloud, Ted, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Which should be
I'm
really
so impressed.
King Charles is really big.